So I am thrilled to have been invited by Mo to come on board here with this Zoom call and share with you some strategies that might just change your world and your health for the better. So, let me ask you, how would 5 minutes work into your schedule for energizing yourself instantly? I'm guessing that if you could energize yourself in 5 minutes, that's pretty darn instant, and you'd probably be pretty darn happy with that, right? So here's the deal. That's what I specialize in. I teach people how to kick cancer in the can and also how to have energy instantly. And basically, that's the premise of everything that I do. So basically, about a week ago, before I was interviewed on iHeartRadio, which goes out to about 3.5 million people, I was contemplating the fact that we're already into the month of September, right? I mean, September already. If you're like me, you're kind of reeling from the fact that it was just July 4th, 3 months ago, 2 months ago, whatever, 2 months ago, I guess. But here we are already marching quickly towards holiday season. And what do we need the most when we're going towards this holiday season? We need energy and vitality, or we're never going to have any fun or enjoy any of the holidays and the people in our the people in our circle, whether it's our friends, our family, or both. Anyway, as I was going through this contemplation about the time of year it is, I had an epiphany. I mean, it was truly a major epiphany for me. And it started with a question that just absolutely popped into my head out of nowhere. Now, I'd just been meditating, so that might have had something to do with it. But it was this question that popped up into my head, and it was, is there a specific month in your life that stands out? Or a year, for that matter? Or both? And in fact, I just wrote my blog post today on this very topic because it was so pertinent to me. It just jumped right out at me because, quite frankly, September is the month that really stands out for me, beyond the infamous 9/11 event, by the way. That, of course, causes September to stand out for many of us in North America in particular, but even globally. But this is way beyond that, way before that for me. It was the month I was first diagnosed with cancer. Not one form of cancer, but two within that month. And the year that stands out is 1985, because that was the year that I was diagnosed first with cancer. First with melanoma, and then less than 2 weeks later, I was diagnosed with uterine cancer stage 4. Now, that had not been diagnosed in a timely manner because I was so young. I mean, it was just not considered even feasible or possible that I would have this older woman's cancer, which is what uterine cancer used to be, not so much anymore, but that's what it used to be, an older woman's cancer. So I was diagnosed with PMS and you name it, everything but cancer. But after the melanoma diagnosis, that's when they took it more seriously and discovered that I had uterine cancer stage 4. And I remember how I felt. I mean, I was angry. I couldn't believe it. I was shocked to my very core. And, I was only 35. How could this happen to me? That was a great victim, by the way, back in the day. But I was only 35 years old. Now, 2 of my great aunts had died, but from the uterine cancer, advanced uterine cancer, but they were way older than I was, much more than double my years. So it was like disbelief, and I got scared beyond words. I mean, it was like, what does this mean? Where am I going? I had 2 kids to think about, and I just finished school. A few years before university, and I was like launching myself in my career. After all these years of making my way through school and then an internship, and now here I am diagnosed with a deadly form of cancer. And just flip forward 4 more years, and it was September. Yep, September again. Really stands out for me in 1989. And that's when I found myself chronically fatigued. I was completely stressed out with this and burned out from all of the treatments I'd undergone. And I had literally stopped chemotherapy after 3 rounds. So it was like all the other treatments, the natural alternative treatments that I was trying. But I literally traveled around the world searching for the magic bullet, the miracle cure. And it just wasn't coming together at all. It was just really tough. And so, there I was in a wheelchair, given less than 2 weeks to live, sucking on ice chips because I couldn't hold down anything, food or beverages. And I didn't know where to turn. Life really looked pretty darn grim at that point. And so, I couldn't do anything. If it took more than 5 minutes, it was not happening with me. I mean, I still use that as a phrase, if it can't be done in 5 minutes, it ain't going to be done by me. Many people have heard me say that. But at that point, it was not just that it wasn't going to be done by me, it couldn't be done by me. And the people, my caregivers, the loved ones in my life who were taking care of me and helping me, they didn't have any more than 5 minutes at a time to do anything either for themselves, because they were working at their full-time jobs and they were taking turns taking care of me. And, we were all stressed out. And so it was out of necessity that we developed 5-minute strategies. Now, back then, it was only a few. Now I have hundreds under my belt. And, in fact, I wrote a book back in the mid-90s called 5 Minutes to Health. And that was my first public book. I'd written several books for the government up in Canada over the years, but that was my first public book for the actual mass public. And in that book, I covered 5-minute strategies, but they were mostly nutrition and not a lot of other stuff. A little bit of exercise and a little bit of lifestyle, but the truth was that the book was mainly a nutrition book. And that's what people knew me for, was nutrition. But the fact of the matter is that that's not the only thing that saved my life. And so it had always been burning within me that I wanted to get something out there. What do they call it? Your Magnum Opus. I wanted to get my work of art out there to the public that was going to really address everything that I teach, that I've learned on my journey, and that I teach my patients and clients. And that is, strategies that are physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. Because we are whole people, whole individuals. We're not just one piece. We're not just a physical entity or an emotional entity or a mental entity or a spiritual entity. We're everything rolled into one, right? So it was really key to address all of those aspects. But let me just take you on a journey, on my journey, my miracle weekend, back to health, because I think that, some of you might have heard of it or heard me speak about it, but some of you probably haven't. And so here is the journey in a nutshell. In 1989, when I was at the bottom of the barrel and literally didn't think I had any hope, I got dragged off to a home show. A home show is where it's a noisy, huge stadium, auditorium, whatever, depends on the city that it's in. In Toronto, it was huge convention center. And it was very noisy, and I'm not in the mood for being around people in the condition I was in. But we wheel in, and the first person I see is this young, cute guy. We'll say he was cute. Jim the Vitamix Man. And he literally was making concoction after concoction after concoction and sharing it with the audiences all around him. And he offered the stuff to me. And I just said, I'm sorry, I don't want to embarrass you or me. I can't do it. And he said, but you can suck on ice chips, right? And I nodded my head, yeah. He said, good, then I'm your angel today. And he was my angel that day and for months to come and years to come, because he made an ice chip concoction out of cantaloupe, fruit, and seeds, carefully discarding the skin, which was porous and contaminated. So he carefully removed the fruit and the seeds from that and blended it with ice and handed it to me. And I was stunned. It stayed down. That was the first nutrition I'd had in months. So it was ice with nutrition in it. And for the next couple of months, I literally lived on cantaloupe slush. Yeah, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? So that was kind of what it was for me. The next day was the other part of the journey, and I'll go back to the nutrition part in a minute. But the next day was an experience with Dr. Bernie Siegel. And the room was packed. I think there were over 900 people there, and they wheeled me to the front of the room, and there I was. So on the break, Dr. Siegel asked me about my story, what was my story, and I shared with him a little bit of it. And he said, have you ever thought about doing a gratitude journal? I'm like, are you out of your mind? A gratitude journal? I mean, please. He said, what you focus on expands. And you're focusing on dying. Why not focus on some gratitude and see what comes out of that? I said, I don't know what I've got to be grateful for. Look, I am dying. And he said, but you're here. So somebody got you here. That would be something to be grateful for. And he went through different things that I could be grateful for. And he said, look, if you can't think of anything more than one thing to be grateful for when you write in a gratitude journal, just write the same thing 5 times. What you focus on expands. And I remember the next day as I sat in that wheelchair, looking out on this dismal, gray, cloudy, middle of winter Toronto afternoon, and praying and saying, God, if you want me to write in this journal, give me something, give me a sign of some sort, please, please. And within less than a minute, the sun shone through the clouds, just for a moment. I mean, just for a moment, at most a minute, if that. And to me, I don't know about you, but let me ask you, would that be a sign for you? That was a sign for me. And I wrote, Dear God, thank you for the sun. Thank you for the sun. Thank you for the sun. 5 times. And the miracle of miracles was that a month later, I wrote 138 gratitudes in my journal, and every one of them was different. So what I focused on expanded. I was there a month later. I had been given less than 2 weeks. And now it's been 26 plus years. Do you think that maybe what I focused on expanded? And that I'm here because I focused on things to be grateful for? Try it yourself. If you're having a really horrible day, like a really bad day, and things just aren't working out, get a gratitude journal out. Go and get one if you don't have one. Make it a nice one that you're going to open up. And then write in it the date, and then write at the top of it. I always write, Dear God, thank you for. But you can write whatever works best for you. And just write, I am grateful for, and then list 5 things. And if it's the same thing 5 times, that's okay. But just look at how you feel after you've done that. I'm going to guarantee you're going to feel relieved. You're going to feel better, right? Okay, so next thing, going back to my journey, because I know that many of you who are on this call, this is what you want to know about, the nutrition part. I outlived my prognosis by 2 months before we really got it. Well, by 6 weeks. It was 2 months into the journey when we hired a physiotherapist to come and move my body. And the physiotherapist said, you got to get some other kind of food into you. This ice chip stuff is great, but have you tried to take in anything else? Now, at that point, I hadn't, because if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? Like I said a minute ago. But what happened was that we did decide to try to make a smoothie, or not to try to, but we made a smoothie, and the smoothie stayed down. Yay! I could actually take something in besides ice chips. And then from there was about 2 weeks to a month later, we actually started to make soups. So it was still kind of a liquid form that I was taking in, the smoothies, and then we introduced soups. Now I will tell you, the smoothies were a whole lot easier to make taste great in that Vitamix machine that I had gotten at the home show. But the soups were essential because that was a way that we could add something in the form of vegetables. So we started with the fruits in the smoothies, and back then people didn't add in a lot of greenery to their smoothies the way they do today. But had we thought about that, I'm sure we would have added some things like green stuff, spinach, kale, celery, etc. to the smoothies. But at that time we didn't. We made soups instead. And so, like I said, it was a little tougher to make them taste really good. But we found ways, like adding a half of a green apple really seemed to add flavor to a soup so that it tasted better than if it was just vegetables. I couldn't deal with a lot of, spicy stuff because my system just wouldn't tolerate it. So it was pretty bland. But all I was concerned about was getting better, to be quite honest. I wasn't concerned about the flavor. When people say, oh, it has no taste, or, it's boring. Well, yeah, but life is precious. And if you have to do something in order to be here now, you have to do it. And that's what I did. Now, the next part of that journey was adding in protein. So we started adding in organic, GMO-free tofu. Back then, there was more availability of GMO-free soybeans and tofu, etc., than there is today. So you have to be very careful to read the labels today and make sure it's genetically modified organism free, GMO-free, or it might be a GMO with a strike through it. It means no GMOs. And organic. It's preferable to see both of those things on the label. So we added that to the smoothies and we added that to the soups. And many of you who have listened to me over the years know that I created a book called I Can't Believe It's Tofu. And despite all the bad news about soy and so on in this day and age, I still believe that organic, GMO-free tofu is a great addition to your diet. I'm not a real advocate of using a lot of soy milk. But I do use a little bit of soy milk. I use mostly tofu in my smoothies and my soups now. And then, of course, protein powder is another option, although I don't use a lot of protein powders myself. I like to add it all in whole food form if possible. But that's just my own preference. And things that are soy-based don't agree with me if I have too much of them in a day. I have to kind of stick with tofu and tempeh and edamame and miso. Those are my mainstays when it comes to the soy products because some of those are fermented, which is, it's recommended that you have 50% of your soy fermented and the other 50% in whole food soy. Okay, so going back to the diet though, you notice it was fruits and then vegetables and then we added in some protein. And we added in grains in the form of wheat germ, and eventually we added in things like quinoa into the smoothies and the soup in particular. And so it was the grains got added in then. And so basically, jump forward, years later, I had the darndest time trying to get my patients to follow through with the same kind of process and program that I implemented to get well. And I was introduced to a product many years ago, a nutritional product, actually in 1993 initially, and I turned my nose up at it. And then it was in 1998 when I was reintroduced to it, actually 1996, but it took me 3 years to really embrace the product called Juice Plus. And that was me adding in Juice Plus. Why? Because it had research, for one thing, which most of the other products I would ask people for research and they would just have a lot of testimonials. They'd send me cassettes filled with testimonials and pages of paper filled with testimonials, but nothing about research. Whereas with this product, that's what I received, was I did get testimonials as well, but not much, comparatively speaking, and got a ton of research over the years. Because it was, I think the initial research was done in 1996, and then, over the years, more was added, and now there's over 30 studies, I believe. So, you've got all this research with this product, and then, of course, you've got fruits and vegetables and whole grains in this product in a capsule. Talk about easy to do. I mean, I'm the master of 5-minute healthy strategies, right? That's what I'm known for. 5-minute strategies that anyone can do anywhere, anytime, and they're healthy. And they'll definitely change your world. this was when I put this into Instant Energy, my book Instant Energy, I have a chapter on Juice Plus. I actually have two chapters that address it. And the one chapter on Juice Plus, I actually talk about the fact that it's 2 minutes a day. 1 minute in the morning and 1 minute in the evening or the late afternoon before dinner. So before breakfast and before dinner, you can get all your Juice Plus in. Now, if you are taking the orchard, garden, and vineyard, you might want to divide it up into 3 times a day, but twice a day is fine if you're doing 2, 2, and 2. I do 2 green and in the morning with 1 vineyard, and I do 2 red, which is the orchard. So it's 2 garden and a vineyard in the morning, and 2 orchard and a vineyard in the evening. That's what I do. That's what's recommended. That's what I do. That's what the research was done with. So that's what I do. So that's what I have, is that 2 minutes a day. And if you look at your life, what is it that you can do? I mean, I teach breathing techniques, right? None of us get enough air into our lungs. So I teach people how to breathe. But if you're not, and the truth is, if you're not eating healthy foods, but you're breathing deeply, what's that air going to do? Where is it going to take nutrients, or how is it going to take nutrients, to different parts of your body if you're not getting enough nutrients to begin with? So yes, you have to learn how to breathe, and you need to get lots of water into your body. That we recommend in talking about pounds and ounces, we talk about, half your body weight in ounces of water, right? You do need that, and you need to take water. You need to take Juice Plus with water, because all of the liquid has been removed from the fruits and vegetables that are in the Juice Plus. So you take the water to activate the enzymes and to pulp up the fiber that's in the Juice Plus, and that's the kicker there. And then you get your fruits and vegetables. And here's the good news. For people who have never been fruit and vegetable eaters, when they've been on something like Juice Plus for 3 to 4 months, because it takes 90 to 120 days to replace all of your red blood cells, what happens is, as you replace those red blood cells, you're also replacing your cellular memory. And in fact, I was the first person within the Juice Plus world and community to talk about the cellular memory. That was my term, that I spoke about, my verbiage. So that's the thing. You replace your cellular memory, and then from there you start craving more of that which you have a cellular memory for. That would be the fruits and the vegetables and the whole grains versus the junk food. People who eat healthfully for 3 to 4 months stop craving all those fast foods. And when they go and eat them, they actually feel so bad. So they get upset tummies, they get heartburn, indigestion, chronic diarrhea. I mean, not chronic. They get diarrhea or constipation, whatever. One of those two things happen to them, or both intermittently, just from that fast food meal. So it really does take its toll after you've been eating healthfully for a while. You actually choose to eat more wholesome foods. So basically, in a nutshell, that's it. I've been here now I celebrated my 65th birthday this year in May, and I've been here for more than 26 years since I was told that I had terminal cancer and that I wouldn't be here. So, and since the beginning, 30 years. So, when I look at my life and I realize, wow, September is a significant month to me, what could I do to support others out there? And what I've done is I've done an amazing thing. It's only good for the next couple of days, but because of this call, I extended the time limit to get your hands on my Instant Energy digital book with all kinds of goodies for just $9.97. The whole package is valued at $97, and you can get it for $9.97. And probably the easiest way to find out about it is to read my most recent blog post at kickcancerinthecan.com, and then just click on the tab at the top that says blog, B-L-O-G, and the very top blog will be the one you will read. And it just simply says, here's the iHeart radio interview with Dr. Marilyn Joyce. Because as I think I mentioned at the beginning, I was interviewed by iHeart Radio actually the audience was apparently in excess of 3.5 million or something close to that. pretty darn awesome. And that during that time, it's sharing success stories with January Jones. So you'll see that post. You can listen to the call where I give some of my tips. And then if you just scroll down through that page, you can actually click on where you can go and take a look at this program, the package, and then also how you can get it. And I'm telling you, you can't beat the savings there. It's like less than, pardon me, more than 50% savings on this program, and you're getting inspiration and lots more tips and tools with the actual bonuses that are included with the digital book. But you get my whole digital book that sells for $30 in hard copy, plus shipping and handling and all that. With this, you get it right away. Can't beat it. Tells you about everything about how to get it there. And I look forward to having the opportunity to serve you in a bigger way through the use of this program and this book. And basically drop me a line if you have any questions at info@marilynjoyce.com. Okay? That's info@marilynjoyce.com. And I look forward to hearing from you and hearing about all your successes, and definitely want to know what you thought of this little session right now. So that's it. Have a fabulous rest of the day, and we'll talk to you later.